Welcome to the Unknown Options, the place where we explore the unknown options, the number one source for career apprehension and accessibility. My name is Will. Today I have with me Dr. Maiysha. Dr. Maiysha, it's great to have you here. Give us a rundown on who you are and what you do.
First of all, thank you, Will, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I am, by training, a physician. Actually, let me back it up. First, I am a mom. First and foremost, I am a mom. And why I do what I do is for my boy. I'm a physician by training, but I no longer practice. I help people with their beliefs to get rid of limiting beliefs and um, like ineffective behaviors. I teach people how to communicate in ways that they leave people seen and heard and respected and valued. And I teach people how to listen so that they hear things that maybe people are not saying. They can read body language and all of that inside of what organizations or inside of small business so that you can more connect with the people that you serve.
I love it. Thank you for that wonderful intro. Your journey is important, so we want to highlight the good, the bad, and the ugly. You kind of touched on it earlier. We see it in your bio or your title. For someone who might not know, what is mind remapping?
Well, so mind remapping is actually a term I came up with. I would have thought someone would have said this before me, but my background is in neurolinguistic programming, which is a discipline that is all about brain-based communication. And so it's all about understanding how your brain works and why you do the things you do so that the things that you are doing that are ineffective in life, the habits that you have, the automaticities that you have, you can interrupt. So when we have an awareness of why we act the way we act, why we react the way we act or respond the way we do based on our filters, our upbringings, our past experiences, our traumas, then we can begin to heal and we can begin to interact with each other as humans and not as traumas reacting to traumas.
Definitely. I love it. I know you said earlier you're a trained physician. When did you make this shift from, practicing as a doctor to creating your own company and focusing on mind remapping?
Well, I'll start by saying the way I practice was always outside the box. So I
Mm.
am what you call an integrative medicine physician. I've always married um, non-traditional practices or Western style practices with um, with more holistic practices. That's like what I've always done. And so I've always kind of been outside of the box about I would say 5 years into my own private practice, and that would be about 8 years after my own residency, I started to recognize that the one-to-one patient interaction, while it was fulfilling in the moment, it wasn't as big as I could be doing things, and I wanted to make a bigger impact. So
Yeah.
I've been out of clinical practice for about 5 years now, and I sold my practice back about now it's been about 7 years. Wow, 7 years ago, and started to coach. That was my exit. That was my entry career after that. Coaching burned out moms in medicine, and
Okay.
then moved into more of the training and corporate, especially after the events of 2020, moved into more social justice work. And so that is why I do a lot more of the trauma and the teaching people how to communicate and be with each other, because there's a big empathy gap, there's a
Yeah.
big communication gap, there's a big humanity gap happening.
Mm. I love that big humanity gap. First of all, congrats on selling your practice 7 years ago.
Thank you.
Back to mind remapping. Why is mind remapping important, and what does it contribute to general society?
Well, I think the main reason why it's important is because it helps us to understand ourselves. And it helps us to understand that what we see, hear, feel, think is really only part of what's actually happening.
Mm.
A lot of times when we're responding and we were reacting, like all the information that we're receiving and that we're responding or reacting to is filtered information. And everything that everyone else is listening, responding, and reacting to is filtered information. And when we understand that when we're talking to someone, they are they're hearing our words, but they're translating them differently than maybe what we're saying,
Yeah.
then we can begin to learn how to communicate in ways that actually match. And that matters in every aspect of life. It's funny because I say everything, just about everything, can be resolved in communication, and people would think, well, is it really that simple? But if you think about like the wars that get started, all the arguments that get started, or misunderstanding and disagreements, it's all boils down to communication. So how that impacts society, how that impacts anyone in their family, is when you learn how to listen, you learn how to communicate in a way that a person can hear you, learn how to negotiate and navigate conversation in a very specific way, and connect with people, then you actually mitigate, or you like avoid a lot of different misunderstandings and conflicts and problems.
I love that. Me and my wife and I, we're watching this show called Master Chef. Like it's just like cooking
I love
show, and
MasterChef.
and this season there's a different I guess generations, like Gen Z, Millennial, Gen X, whatever. Do you when you teach mind remapping, do you teach those different generations to communicate differently, or is communication kind of one language in your opinion?
That's a really good question. So when I teach communication, it's interesting. I teach people to listen, to listen for how their communication is landing in others. So I don't teach different generations to communicate differently, but I make different generations aware of how they might communicate differently so they can
Mhm.
listen with that in mind. So one of the things I often talk about is that I'm Gen X, and my baby boomer parents and my millennial and Gen Z sisters, they have different values. And I always talk about how, you know, one of the big misunderstandings in communication comes from what's important to each generation. And if we can honor what's important to our boomers and honor
Yeah.
what's important to our Gen Z, like if the boomers can recognize and honor what's important to them, and the Gen Z can recognize and honor what's important to boomers, and X can, honor what's important to Alpha, and Alpha can, like all of those, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then when we are listening, we listen differently. We listen with more compassion and more
Mhm.
understanding. And it keeps us from responding from judgment. And so when I teach people how to communicate across generations, that's the way I do it. Not so much that it's a different communication, but it's a
Yeah.
different listening.
Okay. And it all kind of leads back to empathy, would you say?
Absolutely.
Love it.
Absolutely. You got
Okay.
it.
Okay. I like it. Um, kind of feeding off that question a little bit. Do you think, I mean, obviously you were practicing doctor, then you found something that you were really passionate about, and you took that and you said you're Gen X. Do you think there are going to be more professionals and like even older and younger generations that are going to be more attached to how to communicate clearer and like be more empathetic, or do you think it's kind of like you're kind of a unicorn in this space right now? I just want to say
Man, I hope not. I hope not, because I do not want this skill to die with me. I tell you what,
that.
I do this work so that I actually do this work knowing that the big change that I want to see is not going to happen in my lifetime.
Mm,
So I think that people are waking up. I think people are getting more aware. I will say though that I feel honestly that things are probably getting worse before they're getting better, as you can
mm,
probably look out in the world and see.
yeah.
And so I do believe that there is an opening that's happening. And I especially think it's happening in the younger generations, which is why I lean in to teaching younger people, people younger than me. Of course, my
Yeah.
generation, but people younger than me.
Yeah.
When you're 70 and 60 something, it took you that long to get that way. And it takes a
Mm,
lot longer to be able to shift and change unless you're really motivated. But I feel that my generation still is a little bit rigid, but opening.
mhm,
Millennials and Gen Z, so open, so like ready to take on something new, something other than what we're experiencing now. So
yeah.
I absolutely think that, more people will be leaning into this conversation of conscious communication and trauma informed listening and speaking.
Definitely. I love it. With social media being like so prominent, especially among like the millennials and Gen X, is it a pro or is it a con for you for like effective communication?
It is it's a hindrance. I mean, it's not a total con,
Yeah.
but I think what happens is the native digital generation, right?
Mm,
The generation that's born with the cell phone and the, all the digital. If we as Gen X, like old school,
yeah.
Gen X and elder millennials
Yeah.
don't teach them how to communicate, they will only learn how to communicate from this digital standpoint, and interacting one to one becomes more difficult. And
Mm,
I'm already seeing the impact of that. So, like, if my son, he's 10, almost 10,
mm,
I just he just goes outside. We make him go outside,
yeah.
and the neighbor comes down on his little scooter, and they play basketball outside, and like that's the way we used to do it. And there's nothing wrong with him being on TV or playing his video games. Like, I mean, yeah, I think he should do that too.
Mm,
That has its benefits.
yeah.
But I think that if parents don't remember to teach their children person to person, real in person social interaction, that could be a huge problem. The other thing about social media and digital communication is that context is lost in like screen words. You don't
Yeah.
get, so words are
Yeah.
only 7% of communication, and the rest is tone of voice and body language and um, facial expressions and all of that. And even though there's a lot of video platforms of communication, still it's asynchronous. So then a person can have some type of facial expression or body language, and another person's unconscious mind will, based on their filters, make up what that means. In
Mm,
asynchronous communication, in communication where you're not like having that immediate feedback, like you have a facial expression, I say, "Oh, you raised your eyebrow. What did that mean?" Like I
yeah.
can get immediate feedback, and you can give me immediate feedback.
Yeah.
But in asynchronous communication, where, like, let's say Marco Polo. I have a girlfriend and we do Marco Polo all day long. I do a video of Marco Polo. If I say something in a particular tone of voice and it hits her a certain way, she has to wait. She has to ask me and wait for me to respond. Then I have to remember what I did. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
then in the meantime, her brain is filling in all the blanks and making it up and causing anxiety, and maybe whatever, she's feeling some
Yeah.
kind of way. So
Yeah.
that's some of the downfall of digital communication, whether it be video or whether it be just text. I think text is, I mean, I love texting, but I think it's the worst for like conflict, solving conflict, and
Yeah.
people try to like tell each other off on text message. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's the worst. Pick up
Yeah.
the phone and call someone.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's funny. It's funny you said that. I do like sales my day job, and I'm like I told you earlier, I'm 27, but I have younger people that work like with me, like in like their early 20s, and like
Mhm.
I'm always like just call like the customer rather than like sending an email. Like why? I don't want. It's like they're Gen X, so they want to communicate like that. But what would like be some tips that you would get to like I guess early career professionals that like you said they were brought up in this digital age and they hate talking on the phone even though that's like a more effective method of communication. What are some tips that you would get them to like kind of like conquer that anxiety? Because that's the main thing. They like I'm scared to
Yeah.
call a person, and me I'm like I'm used to it, so it doesn't bother me. But what are some tips
Yeah.
that you would give that people in that position?
There's a little group called Toastmasters.
Yeah.
Yes. And Toastmasters is an organization, or it's an organization that helps people who want to learn how to speak better, generally, like public speaking. But
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be for just public speaking. It's a place where you can go, and they're like multiple chapters in every city, and it's very convenient, and it's super inexpensive. It's like, I don't know, like $25 to join, and
Yeah.
maybe like $60 a year. I mean, it's like cheap. It's no excuse, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to learn how to communicate, Toastmasters is the way to go, because you learn how to tell stories, you learn how to, like, just find your communication style and listen to others. And then, of course, because you're in the group, you network with people. And networking is one of the most valuable things because you just learn how to talk to people. I mean, just talk to people and get to know them. And so that's what I'd recommend. I mean, like just start with like joining a Toastmasters group or joining a meetup group where you just go and hang out with people. That's what I recommend because the more you hang out with people, the more you learn how to be with people.
Definitely. Nah, you're it's funny because my mom, she would tell me to join Toastmasters for like I've been in sales for so long, but like cause I talk you probably hear I talk really fast. She's like, join Toastmasters because she was in there for like 10, 12 years. And
Yeah.
I haven't done it yet. But you may say that's 100%. I can agree with
That's
you
so
100%.
funny that your mom has told you.
Yeah, she's told me like and I've actually like looked up like 4 different like I forget what they're calling like the groups because I live in Charlotte, so like there's like 4 of them around where I live, and I've actually like almost went to one, but like I always something always comes up that I didn't go. But I'm definitely now that you said that, like that's like confirmation.
You should go. It's so fun. It's actually really fun.
Yeah, it's there was they had a digital Toastmasters at my old job, and I would like sit in. I wouldn't like participate. I would just sit in, but it was like everyone else was having fun. I'm like, wow, that's like it's interesting, but I never like participated. So.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, awesome. Well, that takes us to the middle of an interview. We're gonna go to the not so speed round where we ask you some quick questions and see what you have to say about them.
Okay.
The first question is what would happen to society, or what does society look like without mind remapping?
Oh, I think, well, I'm gonna be honest. I think what we're seeing right now is a society without mind remapping.
Yeah,
A
wow.
society where people are fighting, or people are being violent with each other. A society where mental health is declining. I think what we're seeing is a result of people not leaning into remapping their mind.
I love it. Okay, what are the good, bad, and ugly things that I guess happen from like the process of like you remapping your mind?
Okay. So I'll start out. I'm gonna go a little bit in reverse. So you said the good, the bad, the ugly. I think that the 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 bad, if you want to call it bad, is it's uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable to begin to um, dig into the why you are the way you are, because sometimes you hit some trauma there, and it can be challenging. And then the other piece that I think it could be a little challenging, or that could be on the bad side, is that when you're learning how to communicate, it sometimes is like learning a new language. When you're learning how to, it's like it really is uncomfortable because we don't like not knowing, and we don't like looking silly or thinking we look silly, and that's part of the stage of learning. So I would say that's sort of like the bad, or maybe that's I don't know if it's the bad or the ugly. The other piece I would say, so one of the things maybe I would say would be the ugly, is that when you start to heal, sometimes the people in your life don't. And so I was just actually having a conversation with a previous client about that, and what she was saying is that what's challenging is that, as she grows, sometimes her friends fall away, and it's sad.
Yeah.
Because people that she's known for years and years and years and years, who are not coming along on the journey with her, she feels more and more and more disconnected from. And so that can happen. And I mean, it's even happened in my life where there are people friends who have fallen away, family members who we still interact, but I've had to put a little time and distance between.
Yeah.
And so some people don't come on a journey with you, and you have to either say goodbye or put some distance. So that would be the ugly. Now the good, I always like to end on a high note.
Yeah, gotcha.
I think the most wonderful part of being able to remap your mind is the freedom that comes with things that have been weighing you down for so long, just like lifting off of your shoulders. The confidence that comes with not only recognizing that all of the negative thoughts, maybe that you were even saying about yourself, are untrue, but also the flexibility that comes with learning the skills of new communication, learning the skills of new listening, and how you can more confidently interact with other people. So that I think that's the good. I mean, that's like just a sliver of the good.
Yeah.
By and large, even for the people that don't come on the journey, you're able to more powerfully navigate those relationships. And for the people who are coming along the journey, those relationships deepen and become tighter because you're actually modeling behavior and they're picking up on it and wanting to
Yeah.
match your energy.
I love it. I want to dig a little deeper into like the ugly, what you said, like sometimes people won't join you on a journey.
Hmm.
How would you tell somebody to combat that? Because like sometimes people like all we really have is like family and friends, and like some people like would kind of put in their mind like, hey, like me losing my friends is worth more than like my freedom, like you said. But
Hmm.
we like you know that it's not, but like in their mind they can create that, I guess, that image or that picture like I'd rather be around people that are not necessarily negative, but maybe not conducive to growth. How would you tell
Yeah.
them to combat that?
So there's a couple of things. Now, when you start the journey, for them to come with you,
Mm,
right? And that gives you information. We have to take everything as information.
yeah.
So whenever I am starting a journey, I always share with my core group, like, yo, this is where I'm going. Let's go.
Hmm.
Let's go together.
Yeah.
And when you share that opportunity, if there's someone in your life who would rather be stuck, then you can create a boundary. Like, okay, well, this is where I'm going. If you want to stay stuck, that may mean that we have to interact a little bit less.
Mm,
All right. So then they'll either fall away or they'll say, well, I'll try. And in my world, trying means they're not going to do it. But
yeah. Yeah.
maybe they go at their own pace,
Yeah.
right? Maybe they go
Which
at
is
their
no
own pace.
pace.
Yes. And so that's one thing. The second thing is people got to be where they got to be. And you as a person, I'm saying you as the general you, like the listeners you have to decide whether you're going to let other people hold you back or whether you're going to go. And if you decide to go, understand you will make other friends along the way. You will build more community. So as I have grown, and I will tell you, I'm a tested introvert and I am a loner at heart. But I do love people, but I really love my alone time.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, over the years, as I have grown and I have stepped outside the comfort zone to create new community, I have made some of the most beautiful friendships. They do not cancel out the old friendships, right? But these are people who see me for who I am. They see my potential and who I can be, and they never let me backslide. They hold me accountable. And so that is how I'm able to sit in rooms with CEOs, something I never thought I could do.
Yeah.
Like just sit in room and talk to them like they're regular people. I mean, they are regular people, but I mean, like I
Yeah.
just never thought that
Yeah.
I would be sitting in the room just chumming it up and talking shop with the CEO of a huge aquarium or the CEO of a hospital or a senior vice president of a hospital association. Like I would have never thought I'd be in that position.
Yeah.
And so, but that can't happen if I let my mind and let myself be held back and held down by people who are constantly in the same space or not, or negatively speaking to me or telling me what I can't do or tell
Yeah.
me, oh, you think you're better than me now. Oh, you getting too big for your britches. That's
Yeah.
how the old folks say it. Or,
Yeah.
all these various things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, um, I'm this is sort of a sidebar. I'm curious to know like what the Gen Z version of "too big for your britches" would be.
It's honestly, I'm millennial, but it's probably like you think you're better than me, honestly. Like
Just think you're better than me.
it's
Okay,
probably a little more sassy, to be honest, but like
right.
that's what I know.
That's what you would say.
Like that.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I came up. And also I'm from the South. You getting
Okay.
too big for your britches.
Oh yeah, no, I know that term very well. Very very,
Because
very
you're
well.
in the South too. So
Yeah, very well.
but yeah, so that's what I would say. So you offer the journey to those in your circle. they'll either take it or they won't, or they'll try, but they'll move at their own pace, and that's okay too. And then if they don't, you set a little boundary around that, with whether it's space or whether it's, you got to go, depending on how toxic that relationship is. And then you build new community along the way.
Love it. That was a great explanation. We got a couple more questions. What is one person, book, or event that changed the trajectory of your life? I mean, obviously you've been in a lot of places, a lot of high places. What's like one event, book, or person that like made you take maybe a leap or just like a confounding moment or something like that in your life?
When I did my master practitioner training of neurolinguistic programming, when I was training for this in this communication, um, we did what was called a full breakthrough session. And during that breakthrough session, I realized all of the things I had been telling myself about who I was, like I'm not good enough, or my voice doesn't matter. Like all of these things that I was telling myself was not true. And the thought came into my mind. This was like right when I was on the edge of making a career transition where I wanted to step out of my practice. The thought came in my head, what are you waiting for? And that was it. Like that was the moment for me that I say within the 30 days, I had started a coaching practice. Within 10 months, I had sold my practice and had replaced my revenue. And then that has just taken me along the way.
You got a voice and you listened. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people get like messages, but they just don't listen to it, and then like
Yes.
they don't act on it because like
That's so
it's. I have a really good friend, and he's very smart and he's a really good job, and like I'm an entrepreneur, and he's like kind of one, but he'll tell me all these ideas, and he's doing it for a long time. I was like, one is like, bro,
true.
everybody has good ideas, but you have to act on those ideas. You know what I mean? Like,
That's right.
you can't just be. Well, you can be an idea machine, but then you don't see the fruit of your labor. But
Yeah.
okay, I love it. Last question. Let's see, somebody watched this video, young lady, probably 18, 19, and they want to remap their mind. What are the tips or the path that you give them to get where you are currently?
Well, the first, the awareness is the first step. I would say, um, the first thing is to become aware of what are the barriers. What are the things that you're telling yourself that are stopping you? What are the where are I would say the negative conversations living? And then the second thing I would say, and maybe it's really in reverse, like where do you want to go? Like for what purpose? So they want to remap their mind. Why? Where do they want to go? What is the intended outcome? How do they know? How will they know when they get there? And then what's stopping them? And that's all of the negative thoughts, conversations, limiting beliefs. So that's like the first step. And then I say, it's hard to do this work alone.
Yeah.
But what I'll say is that the limiting beliefs that come up for you, ask yourself, when's the very first time I heard that? What were the circumstances surrounding you accepting that belief and noticing that it's no longer true? How can you notice that it's no longer true? Right. And that would say be the first step to remapping one's mind, is to start to notice the lies that you've told yourself about yourself, the negative lies, and to begin to recognize what the empowering truth really is.
I love that. That's a great quote to end on. I love it. There's not too much to say after that, to be honest. Oh man, that's good. Give a shout out to your company and anything else that you like, your like social media, its website, all that good stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, social media, I am on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You probably will reach me best on LinkedIn. That's where I traffic. Uh, and it's /Dr. Maiysha. I am also on TikTok, but I don't really check my messages on TikTok that much. So I'm going to say, reach me on LinkedIn or Facebook. I do check Facebook messages, /, Dr. Maiysha. That's how you
Perfect.
reach me. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more about what I do, about the coaching that I do, about the speaking that I do, about any organizational work that I do, mindremappingacademy.com. That's mindremappingacademy.com. And then the last thing is I do have a podcast. If you want to hear, if you're like, oh, this was interesting, where can I listen more? It's called Behind Beliefs and Behaviors.
Love the title. I love it.
Thank
And
you.
I'll put everything in the thumbnail, or not thumbnail, the description. Dr. Maiysha, it was amazing having you on. We really appreciate your time, your expertise, and knowledge. Thank you again. Everyone who tuned in, thank you guys for tuning in. Y'all have a blessed evening. Thank you.
Thank you.